Hi, I'm Josh, aka Skate Dad, and today I'm here to help you answer the question, what kind of safety equipment should I get for my young beginning skateboarder? The safety can be a touchy issue with older skateboarders, but for your young skater, this should be an easy discussion. No safety equipment, no skateboarding. That especially goes for wearing a helmet. When my son started skateboarding at age 7, I told him we had 2 rules. The first rule was have fun. The second rule was try not to get seriously injured or die. To help him not get seriously hurt or die, my wife and I made a rule that he had to wear a helmet anytime he was on a skateboard. It didn't matter if he was just cruising around the neighborhood or he's at the skate park or in our driveway. If he stepped on that skateboard, he had to put his helmet on. In these videos, I'll make references to injuries and death. I talk about the dangers because I want you as a parent to take safety seriously. Also, I don't want to get sued for making it seem like this is a totally safe activity that nobody ever gets hurt doing.
That's gotta hurt!
But is skateboarding really as dangerous as its reputation might lead you to believe? The problem with answering that question is there's a lack of good data and good statistics. For example, there's an organization called the National Safety Council, and they keep statistics on all sorts of sporting activities. However, there are 2 problems with the data they offer us. The first one is they give you aggregate data. So they tell you there were this many accidents with skateboarding requiring an emergency visit last year. The problem is they don't tell us how many people skateboard, and they don't tell us how many people participate in other sports. So it makes it impossible for us to compare how dangerous one sport is versus another. The other way that you can sort the data is to look at it at the rate of injuries or emergency room visits per 100,000 people in the population. But again, this isn't a reliable source of data to answer the question, how dangerous is skateboarding? To do that, we would need to know the rate of emergency room visits for skateboarding per participant, and that's data that we don't have. In addition, the statistics that cover skateboarding injuries include accidents on scooters and hoverboards. There are only a few statistics about skateboarding that we can really trust and get some helpful information from. For example, we know that the number of deaths due to skateboarding from 2011 to 2015 was 147. We also know that the majority of those deaths occurred on public roads in busy traffic. In other words, skateboarders getting hit by cars. We also know that this death rate is similar to the death rate for normal pedestrians. 74% of all skateboarding injuries involve the extremities. 19% are broken wrists. 11% are injuries to the ankles, and 16% are to the face. However, we know without needing to refer to statistics that injuries to the head tend to be more serious than injuries to other parts of the body. We also know from the data that approximately 1/3 of all skateboarding injuries occur with participants who have been skateboarding for less than 1 week. In other words, keep your beginner skateboarder out of traffic and make them wear a helmet. With those 2 simple rules, you may eliminate the vast majority of skateboarding accidents and make skateboarding something as safe as swinging on a swing at the park. Since we don't have a lot of statistics we can rely on, allow me to share some of my personal experiences with skateboarding injuries. Watching the careers of thousands of skateboarders, I have yet to hear a single story about a professional or a sponsored amateur skateboarder dying or being permanently maimed by a skateboarding accident. By permanently maimed, I mean like paralyzed or suffering mental incapacitation or losing a limb or something like that. However, I didn't trust my memory or my knowledge, so I Googled it and I still couldn't find anything. Now you might be saying, I don't care about the pros. I care about my little kid who's just starting to skateboard. What's going to happen to them? That's kind of my point. If these advanced amateurs and professionals are doing this crazy stuff and they're not getting seriously injured and dying, what does that say about the safety level for your kid who's just cruising around the skate park? What I've seen during my life as a skater is a lot of scrapes and bruises, as well as sprained wrists and sprained ankles. As a teen, I broke my arm twice skateboarding, and I lost count of how many times I sprained my ankles. Now, to be fair, I also broke my arm biking and got hurt in all sorts of other ways when I was a kid. I can say with confidence that if your kid learns some basic safety skills about skateboarding, especially wearing a helmet when they're just getting started, the worst they'll likely experience is a few bumps and scrapes. The best skateboard helmet brands are 187 Killer Pads, 888, Pro Tech, and Mind Control. Don't use a helmet from any other sport. Other helmets aren't made to protect your kid from the kind of falls they're going to experience skateboarding. It's especially important that the helmet protects the back of the head, since it's easy for a new skateboard to tumble backwards. In addition, consider these criteria for choosing a skateboard helmet for your kid. Look for skateboarding helmets that meet recognized safety standards. The two primary certifications to consider are the CPSC and the ASTM. A helmet should fit securely on your child's head without being too tight or too loose. It should fit snugly and not wobble around, but it also shouldn't cause pain or make your kid feel like their head is being squeezed. Skateboard helmets are typically constructed with a hard outer shell and a cushioning liner. The outer shell should be durable and able to withstand multiple impacts. My kid skates during the summer, his head gets super sweaty. So look for helmets with adequate ventilation, such as vents or channels, which allow airflow and help keep your child's head cool during skateboarding sessions. Proper ventilation can increase comfort and reduce the risk of overheating. While safety is the primary consideration, choosing a helmet that your child likes can also encourage them to wear it consistently. Involve your child in the selection process, allowing them to choose a helmet design or color that resonates with their personal style. Letting them pick out some stickers to put on their helmet to personalize it can be another way to encourage them to use it. Additionally, consider helmets with reflective elements or bright colors to enhance visibility, especially if your child skateboards in low light conditions. The day will come when your youngster is embarrassed to skate in knee pads, but for now, it's their secret weapon. When my son was a new skateboarder, he constantly had bruises and scrapes on his knees, which kept him from skateboarding as much as he wanted. When he started wearing knee pads, he was able to progress much more rapidly. And for your young skater, it's going to be the same. For one, when they fall, they don't get hurt as much, or at all. And that means they don't have to stop skating every time they get a scrape on their knee. In addition, it's going to make them more confident to try harder tricks, because they know they're not going to get hurt that bad if they fall and slide on their knee pads. Don't use knee pads for anything else like gardening or construction for skateboarding. Also, don't buy the super cheap knee pads that you sometimes see on Amazon and other places. Often these are worse than nothing because they trick kids into thinking they're going to be protected when they fall, when in reality, it's not going to work. The same companies that make good helmets also make good knee pads. You can find pads from 187 Killer Pads, ProTech, and 888 on Amazon. Boneless, distributed by Geertsen, also makes great pads, but you have to buy directly from their website. Just Google boneless pads. Wrist guards, elbow pads, and padded shorts that protect the hips and backside may also be helpful, especially with very young skateboarders who are just starting, or those who are learning to skate on large ramps or in bowls. Shin guards can protect against the many times a board will accidentally connect with a skater's lower legs. While not exactly safety equipment, denim jeans are an effective source of protection against common scrapes and bruises, and any pants will offer more protection than shorts. What if my kid doesn't want to wear pads? You don't have to watch many skateboard videos to notice that most of the skaters are not wearing pads or helmets, with the exception being the skaters who are skating big ramps and bowls. As your child gets older, his or her friends are going to stop wearing pads, and you're going to get bombarded with the question, how come I have to keep wearing a helmet when nobody else does? You're the parent, and until your child is of legal age, you make the rules. And if you're uncomfortable with the idea of them skating without a helmet, don't be afraid to lay down the law. That said, there is a case to be made for phasing out protective gear for skateboarding when your child is still younger and smaller. Now, when I say younger and smaller, I'm talking about 12 or 13 years old. The reason to phase it out when they're smaller is that it's safer for them to learn how to fall without a helmet when they're small than it is when they're larger. Now, if your kid is skating large ramps and bowls, they're never going to stop wearing a helmet, and they'll probably keep wearing knee pads and elbow pads. That's because part of skating in that terrain is constantly falling on your knees and elbows, and they wouldn't be able to do it without those pads. Plus, you often fall backwards when you're skating on big transitions, and that means hitting the back of your head. So a helmet is really a must due to the higher speeds at which skateboarders are traveling on big transition like vert half pipes, mega ramp, or big bowls. A few years ago, Joe Rogan interviewed Tony Hawk and got him talking about concussions.
Is there an issue with CTE with skaters?
Well, it's definitely a concern. I mean, I've had probably by all accounts over the years at least like 30 semi-concussions or heavy, I'd say like 3 or 4 heavy concussions.
Out cold just 3 or 4 times?
Woke up in the ambulance, yeah.
Now, all of those took place on big ramps. They weren't street skating. With street skating, that kind of head injury is rare, but it does happen sometimes. However, it's more commonly associated with the professionals and sponsored amateurs who are jumping down big gaps. While every parent needs to consult medical professionals and make their own decisions, in our family, we decided that my son could stop wearing his helmet when he was 12 years old, and he had gained a certain level of ability. Now, that ability was not the ability to skate, it was the ability to fall correctly. Most young skateboarders aren't trained to fall safely, but a little bit of training can prevent major injuries. The key to falling safely is to distribute the force of the fall. And one of the most effective ways to distribute that force is to learn how to roll. Injuries happen because more force is applied to a part of the body than that body part can take. For example, it's instinctive when we fall forward to catch ourselves with our hands. This often puts the full force of the fall on the palm, which transfers the force to the wrist, leading to a sprained or broken wrist. If the force is transferred past the wrist, it can result in a broken arm. Sprained ankles often occur when a skater tries to keep themselves from falling with a foot, but the force is too great for the ankle joint, and ligaments and tendons are stretched beyond what they can take, so they tear. If the force is transferred beyond the ankle, it can cause a broken leg or a knee injury. These and other injuries can often be avoided if the skater has made it a habit to roll when falling. This way, rather than resisting the fall, they embrace it on their own terms, distributing the force of the fall across arms, legs, and torso as they roll over. This is the same way those parkour guys are able to jump down huge gaps and roll away without getting hurt.
Parkour!
Taking gymnastics, tumbling, or parkour classes can help a young skater develop the instinct to roll when falling instead of catching themselves. These classes not only will help your young skater learn how to protect themselves when falling, but also help them to develop better balance, strength, coordination, and body awareness, all of which will help them become better at skateboarding. Another way to help your young skateboarder learn how to fall is to help them practice falling into grass. Have them practice rolling up to a patch of grass and then fall and roll. They'll roll on whatever side of the body is forward while skating. The more they practice rolling when falling, the more likely they'll be able to do it when it's a real fall. There's so many ways to fall when skateboarding, and sometimes rolling after a fall is not a realistic option. However, the more developed the instinct to roll is, the fewer injuries and fewer serious injuries your young skateboarder is going to have. Now you know about the safety equipment you should get for your young skateboarder and some of the techniques for not getting hurt. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below and I will answer them.